working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. We're moving to the next stage of the pandemic, and as the world resets to the new normal, we find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. First, back riding in motorcycles will be allowed only for couples beginning on Friday, according to Interior Secretary Eduardo Año. In a radio interview, Año said the measure was approved by the National Task Force for COVID-19. Año described a couple as those living in the same household, whether they are married or their common law husbands or wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. To show proof of being a couple, they should present IDs with the same surnames. If they don't have the same last name, Año explained they should have the same address in their IDs. Año also said the prototype model to be used for motorcycle back riding was one submitted by Bohol Governor Arthur Yap. In Yap's model, a barrier is placed between the rider and the passenger, while a handle is placed on the side of the barrier. The barrier would reach beyond the head of the passengers to assure their health and safety. Año encouraged others who have their own designs to keep submitting their proposals, as it would undergo vetting by the technical working group. The government has imposed a no back ride policy in motorcycles since the start of community quarantine measures in mid-March due to health and safety reasons. President Duterte earlier said he could not allow motorcycle back riding because strict physical distancing cannot be observed. Two more COVID-19 patients in Vietnam recovered. Micah Gwyneth Apostol joins us live from Vietnam. Hello, Micah.
Hello, Alma. This is the latest news from Vietnam. Two more COVID-19 patients recover. Hundreds of returnees complete quarantine. Two more COVID-19 patients in Vietnam recovered on Wednesday, according to the National Standing Committee on COVID-19 Prevention and Control. They are patient number 339, a 37-year-old man, and patient number 342, a 41-year-old man who both returned from Kuwait on June 18 on a repatriation flight and were quarantined on arrival. The pair were treated at Barrio Vung Tau General Hospital in the south. The total number of recovered cases in Vietnam stands at 347. Among 22 active cases, 5 have tested negative for SARS-CoV-2 at least twice. 2 tested negative once. Vietnam on Wednesday marked 83 days without COVID-19 community infection. Also on Wednesday, 341 Vietnamese citizens returning from Japan completed a 14-day quarantine period at a police school in Thang Binh District, Central Quang Nam Province, and received all clear certificates. Border soldiers of Northern Quang Ninh Province on Wednesday morning took 9 people who illegally entered Vietnam into quarantine zone. They illegally entered Vietnam through the border with China in Mong Khai City. 10 Vietnamese and Cambodian nationals who illegally entered Vietnam through border gate in Mekong Delta province of An Giang were also taken to quarantine on Tuesday. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much for your updates there in Vietnam, Micah. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Alma. Reporting live from Da Nang, Vietnam. This is Micah Gwyneth O. Apostle. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, in Thailand, His Majesty the King has thanked his people for all the people involved in the operations to combat COVID-19. Faye Barte joins us live from Bangkok. Hello, Faye.
Good afternoon to everybody. Speaking after the cabinet meeting on July 8, 2020, the Prime Minister and Defense Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha said that he had been granted an audience with His Majesty the King to give a report on the government performance. Emphasis must be placed on fair and transparent administration to ease the hardships of the people and bring about the national stability. He said also that Their Majesties the King and Queen on July 6, 2020, donated biosafety mobile units to collect COVID-19 test specimens for the Ministry of Public Health to use in its 12 health area offices across the country. Their Majesties also donated personal funds to produce and develop biosafety mobile units to support medical operations against COVID-19. In line with the travel scheme, Alma, there are like 7 steps for the Thai nationals or the foreigners who would like to apply for entrance here to Thailand. The first one that they must follow is to contact the Royal Thai Embassy or the Consulate General in their country. So for example, they are in the Philippines, a Filipino wants to come back here in Thailand, they need to have an appointment or to contact the Royal Thai Embassy. And the second there would be like foreigners are required to book the alternative state quarantine or the ASQ to provide a fit-to-fly certificate from a healthcare institution. Regarding the COVID-19 free certificate, it is required to be done not more than 72 hours before departure. In addition with that, the health insurance that they need to have must cover treatment costs of COVID-19 or other diseases for the amount of 100,000 US dollars. And the thing there is after doing these requirements and after submitting all the required documents, they need to stay safe with full awareness or like practice protection for themselves. And they need to wait for the processing of screening operation, and they need to have the quarantine. They need to stay in quarantine calmly and safely. And after that, if everything is negative, they can travel here and stay here in Thailand. Regarding in line with the travel scheme also, if they want to travel, there is a good news for everybody. The Fine Arts Department, Alma, will be opening a new building for the Prabuddha Chinarat National Museum at Wat Prasi Ratana Mahatat Temple in Pitsanulok Province. Bangkok to Pitsanulok would be like 4 hours away from here, and where numerous valuable antique objects are collected. So it would be very good for them, and they can see golden and silver trees. And this would be open for general public in August. The last update, Alma, for the COVID-19, there are 5 new cases that have been added, and it comes now with 3,202, 4 from United Arab Emirates on July 2, and 1 from Egypt on July 8. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Faye, for your updates there in Thailand. Stay safe.
Likewise, Alma, this is Faye Barter reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
All right, let's go over now back to Vietnam. In Hanoi, Dak Nong Geopark has been recognized as a global geopark at the UNESCO Executive Board. Joining us live from Hanoi is Charlene Navaja. Hello, Charlene.
Good afternoon to you, Alma, and to everyone watching. So, exciting news for Vietnam as the Dak Nong Geopark in the Central Highlands of province of Dak Nong has been recognized as the global geopark at the 209th UNESCO Executive Board yesterday, July 7. So Dak Nong Geopark is the 3rd UNESCO-recognized global geopark in Vietnam after Dong Van Karst Plateau Geopark in Ha Giang Province and Non Nok Cao Bang Geopark in Cao Bang Province. So located on the Nong Plateau at average elevation of 600 to 700 meters above sea level, with the highest point being Ta Dung at 1,982 meters above sea level. Dak Nong Geopark, so also known as the Land of Sounds, covers an area of 4,760 square kilometers. So according to the UNESCO, Dak Nong Geopark is distinctive in terms of geological features and geoheritage value, being a piece of the Gondwana ancient supercontinent from about 200 to 165 million years ago, it was deeply submerged into a passive continent, marginal sea, and has very rich in ammonite and bivalve fossils. So this continental margin later, so during around 145 to 66 million years ago, became active due to plate collision with red bed sediments, eruptive andesite, dacite, rhyolite, and intrusive gabbro-diorite and granodiorite granite rocks. So during the last 16.5 million years ago, the territory became active again with a widespread multi-phase volcanic activities, so forming a basalt cover over more than 50% of the geopark area. So these have been the source of some of the world's largest and top quality bauxite deposits and a number of other minerals such as sapphire. And especially the fertile soils that have fed generations of local people with many industrial and fruit tree crops. So in particular, young volcanic activities about tens of thousands of years ago, so that's around late Pleistocene to Holocene, have resulted in spectacular craters, majestic waterfalls, and Southeast Asia's most extensive system of hundreds of magnificent volcanic caves. So many of which had been used by prehistoric people as shelter since at least 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. So the Vietnam National Commission for UNESCO and Dak Nong Province's People's Committee and other relevant agencies, so domestic and foreign scientists, will launch plans on protecting this environment. So preserving the natural resources, maintaining and upholding values on geology, biodiversity, culture, history, and ethnic traditions in the area. So back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much. But by the way, is that park open already? Do you know?
We don't have an information about that yet, but yeah, I will keep you updated.
Thank you.
We should visit this Alma together.
We should, yes. Thank you so much, Charlene, for your environment news and environment report. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you and take care, Alma. So this has been Charlene Navaja reporting from Hanoi, Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
To Cambodia now, governors were told to strengthen their emergency and disaster response. Joining us live from Cambodia is Princess Kalamanan. Hello, Princess.
Hi, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Go ahead, Princess.
So aside from COVID-19, here is an update about natural disasters that pose hazards on people and properties here in Cambodia. The Ministry of Health yesterday advised municipal and provincial governors to strengthen their emergency preparedness and response capabilities ahead of natural disasters. In a letter signed by Health Minister Mam Bun Hang on Tuesday, he said climate change has triggered irregular changes in seasons, heavy rainfall, and other phenomena, such as heat waves, thunderstorms, droughts, and deluge. Such occurrences, he said, pose hazards on the people and properties. To minimize the impact of such disasters, especially thunderstorms and floods, which may be frequent during this period, I ask all municipal and provincial governors to advise the directors of their respective health departments to pay close attention in strengthening healthcare preparedness to ensure swift response in case of an emergency, he said. Kampong's Pew Provincial Governor Vay Nang said the Provincial Administration Task Force and the Provincial Red Cross Organization have always been well equipped with medical supplies and other essentials, such as food, allowing both to jointly help people affected by natural disasters. We already have forces on standby, as well as prepared rescue equipment to assist victims. However, it is good that the Ministry of Health has provided additional instructions to remind relevant authorities about the impact of natural disasters and how these can be mitigated, he said. National Committee for Disaster Management spokesman Kun Soka said yesterday that during the half-first of this year, at least 100 people were killed or injured by thunderstorms across the country, while more than 2,500 properties were damaged. The water level in Mekong River is expected to rise between August and October, he said. So, the public should be vigilant, especially those in the provinces. They should be aware of the dangers of thunderstorms and flooding and must keep track of weather forecasts from the Ministry of Water Resources and Meteorology. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Princess, for your update there in Cambodia. You stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you so much to our... Again, this is Princess Lamanan, live reporting from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. We live in interesting times.
To Malaysia now, where the country has recorded 0 local COVID-19 transmissions for the second time. Joining us live from Kuala Lumpur is Myrna Soriano. Hello, Myrna.
Hi, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good news.
For the latest news in Malaysia, yes, it's good news. Malaysia reached another milestone after it recorded 0 locally transmitted COVID-19 cases for second time yesterday, 8th of July, as the country entered the 113th day of a nationwide enforced movement control order, or MCO. While the country recorded 0 local transmission cases, Health Director General Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said the country recorded 3 new imported cases involving Malaysians, bringing the total of cases recorded to date to 8,677. Dr. Nur Hisham also said 5 recoveries were recorded yesterday, giving Malaysia a total of 8,486 patients who have beaten COVID-19, or a recovery rate of 97.80% of all cases. There were no deaths for the 24th day in a row, with the overall number of COVID-19 fatalities in Malaysia recorded at 121 to date. On July 1st, Malaysia recorded 0 cases of locally transmission of COVID-19 for the first time since March. Malaysia also entered its 28th day of the Recovery Movement Control Order, or RMCO, yesterday. According to Dr. Nur Hisham, the 3 imported cases comprise a trio of Malaysia returning from Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Sudan. A total of 13 active COVID-19 clusters nationwide also recorded 0 new cases, according to Dr. Nur Hisham. Meanwhile, Malaysia ranks 3rd in cancer preparedness in the Asia-Pacific region, according to the report released by the Economist Intelligence Unit, the EIU. It revealed that Malaysia has an overall score of 80.3 out of 100, behind Australia 92.4 and South Korea 83.4, above the regional average of 66.5. The EIU report examined the findings from the Economist Intelligence Unit's Index of Cancer Preparedness and described the complexities of cancer challenge facing 10 Asia-Pacific countries. The countries are Australia, China, India, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Philippines, South Korea, Thailand, and Vietnam. As of 2017, cancer was the 2nd leading cause of death in Malaysia, and the cancer burden was expected to grow with changing demographics associated with an aging population and changing lifestyles. With cancer burden in Asia-Pacific reaching an estimated 8.8 million cases in 2018, this index looks at different responses to the cancer challenge and the essential elements needed to enhance preparedness in the region, said the statement by EIU. Differences were observed between countries' ability to address the cancer burden, it said. Given that many as 70% of cancer cases in low and middle income countries in Asia are diagnosed at a late stage, an emphasis on preventive services and moving from opportunistic to population-based screening is needed, it said. The EIU report editor Jesse Quigley-Jones said that while there was a clear progress at the planning level, the translation of policy into health service delivery and improved cancer outcomes required more emphasis. He also said that Malaysia was recognized for having one of the highest quality national cancer control plans in ASEAN for its National Strategic Plan for Cancer Control Program, or NSP-CCP, as well as one of the top-rated cancer registries in the region. Overall, mechanisms to translate policy and planning to action are lacking in the region, and gaps in service provision are of concern, it said. And that is the news for today in Malaysia. Thank you, Alma.
All right. Thank you too, Myrna. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Reporting live. Thank you. Reporting live from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is Myrna Soriano, who live in interesting times.
The Malaysia Chamber of Commerce and Industries Philippines Incorporated, or MCCI, donated assorted medical supplies to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, in support of its COVID-19 disease containment efforts. Now, Defense Secretary and NDRRMC Chairperson Delphine Lorenzana, together with NDRRMC Executive Director Ricardo Halad and other ranking officials of the Office of Civil Defense, or OCD, received a donation from MCCI through its patron and Malaysian Ambassador to the Philippines, Norman Muhammad, President and co-founder Edward Ling, Vice President and co-founder Eric Yam, Philippine Special Envoy to Malaysia, lawyer Wencelito Andanar, and other officials from the Malaysian Embassy. The donation consists of 200 personnel PPE sets, 4,000 surgical masks, 1,000 KN95 masks, 200 goggles, 14-foot bath disinfectants, and 50 isolation gowns. All PPE sets donated by MCCI will be distributed by OCD to various hospitals in the country. Malaysia is the first member state of the ASEAN to create a foreign business chamber in the Philippines that aims to achieve a successful and harmonious diversity of trade and culture between the two countries. In other news, the Cambodian tourist town of Siem Reap has banned the dog meat trade, a victory for animal rights campaigners who describe the area as the linchpin of an industry that slaughters millions of creatures each year. Now, dog meat, a cheap source of protein, is eaten in several Asian countries, including Cambodia, although it's much more popular in neighboring Vietnam. But animal rights group Four Paws has identified Siem Reap province, home to the famed Angkor Wat temple complex, as a hub for the trade within the kingdom, where they say 3 million dogs are butchered annually. Now, the authorities announced a ban late Tuesday, with the Provincial Agricultural Department saying the dog meat trade has descended into anarchy in recent years. The maximum penalty for dealing in dogs for slaughter as food is 5 years in prison, while fines range from 7 to 50 million riel, or 1,700 to 12,200 US dollars. How the ban will be enforced remains to be seen. ASEAN in Focus will be right back.
All or nothing na ang magiging labanan sa tagisan ng galing. Dahil ang top 30 ay sasalain na para mabuo ang top 15 semi-finalist.
Sino ba sila? Karaniwang tao, saan katatakbo? Sumante ang pag-ibig mo. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for.
Tutukan niyan this weekend sa pinakamalawak na talent competition on Philippine TV and online. Ito ang Tagisan ng Galing.
Tagisan ng Galing is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sandig sugar-free white coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na Sandig sugar-free white coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved Nutrichos, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies niyo. Listo ganado sa Nutrichos. Magnolia Chicken Templados, delicious, ready to cook and freshly marinated daily. Pure Foods Lunch and Meat, pure sarap for every family. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Walang duda, kids can tell na #1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy. Ang tender, ang juicy, ang sarap. Co-presented by Cooper, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. New San Jose Builders Incorporated, Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee. Masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Puerto Rico Resort and Convention Center, Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. I love Puerto Rico. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, Matimco, R Square Variables Incorporated, Compizel Enterprises, Saisho International Trading Corporation, DN Steel, EMAC UPB Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, Sandmix Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! Sandmix Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
Skyway Stages 1 and 2, the elevated toll road system project, run from a section of the South Luzon Expressway from Alabang to Magallanes, Makati. The Skyway Stage 3 is an elevated expressway connecting the South Luzon Expressway through the existing Skyway Stages 1 and 2 to the North Luzon Expressway via Balintawak. Skyway Stage 4 is an 80-kilometer mixed elevated and at-grade toll road that will connect the existing Skyway system starting from the FTI section all the way to Bulacan.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Ikaw lang ang star ng buhay ko. Para sa akin, perfect ka. Ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Pag Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, sarap ng corned beef, inangat pa ng real cheese cubes. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef.
The future of top regional budget carrier AirAsia is in significant doubt due to the collapse in demand for air travel caused by coronavirus. Its auditor warned, sending its share price tumbling 18% on Wednesday. The aviation industry is facing its biggest ever crisis due to the pandemic, with airlines worldwide laying off huge numbers of staff, while some have already gone out of business. AirAsia, led by colorful Chief Executive Tony Fernandez, pioneered low-cost air travel across Asia in the early 2000s at a time of growing demand from a fast-emerging middle class. But on Monday, the debt-laden Malaysian airline reported a record quarterly loss of 803 million ringgit, or $187 million, for the first 3 months of the year after being forced to ground its fleet due to the virus. Auditor Ernst Young said Tuesday that, quote, travel and border restrictions implemented by countries around the world has led to a significant fall in demand for air travel, which impacted the group's financial performance and cash flows. The airline was already facing stiff competition from other low-cost carriers before the outbreak and had reported a net loss of 283 million ringgit in 2019. But the auditor also said AirAsia had seen positive developments on its business operations with the gradual lifting of travel restrictions in some countries. Trading in AirAsia shares was halted on Wednesday morning, and they crashed more than 18% when it resumed in the afternoon. They pared their losses later to trade down about 10% to 0.77 ringgit. Now, even before Monday's dire results, the airline was already reported to have plans to slash hundreds of staff in response to the pandemic. Fernandez said the coronavirus was, quote, by far the toughest challenge they faced since they began in 2001. The number of personnel detailed at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA, who tested positive for the coronavirus disease has reached 24, according to Manila International Airport, or MIA General Manager Ed Monreal. Mr. Monreal, however, clarified that the figure doesn't include personnel from the Bureau of Customs and the Bureau of Immigration. Let's listen in.
as mentioned earlier, we have a total of 24 as we speak. Lahat naman po sila naka-quarantine na. Yung out of the 24, siyam na po ang naka-recover. Nakabalik na po sa trabaho yung 7. Yung 2 ho, inaantay na lang po natin na magkaroon ng medical certificate for allowing them to go back to work. So out of the 24, as we speak, 15 pa po ang dapat. Pero yung 15 po yun, recent lang po yun. Nagkaroon ho ng positive sa swabbing. So recent lang po yun. So hopefully, in the next couple of days, yung pagkakalang po yung iba or second swabbing na, manalangin po tayo na sana po negative na po ang kanilang swabbing. Hindi naman siguro natin masasabi na we're totally, how do you call this, safe because kahit na naman lugar may threat ng COVID. So pinagtutulungan ho natin, ang importante, sumunod tayo sa protocols, practice good hygiene, inuulit-ulit ho namin. Pagkatapos ng gamit, outright po, meron nung nag-disinfect. Tuloy-tuloy yan as often as possible kung kinakailangan. Meron po talagang gumagawa sa lahat. You can observe the whole terminal. Hindi lang po rin sa Terminal 3, but lahat ng paliparan sa 1 and 2, meron po tayo mga ginagawa disinfect. Kailangan ho yun. Hindi ho natin pwede pabayaan na mag-aantay lang tayo na mayroon ng report. Kailangan po, tuloy-tuloy po yung ginagawa natin sa lahat ng ating paliparan.
The number of positive cases did not affect the operations as there are about 4,000 personnel working at the NAIA, according to Mr. Monreal, noting those infected are less than 1% of the airport manpower. Meanwhile, the offices of the Interagency Council Against Trafficking at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport were shut down after 4 personnel tested positive in swab tests for the coronavirus disease. In an office order dated July 7, released on Thursday, Justice Undersecretary Emeline Aglipay Villar, who is in charge of the IACAT or IACAT, ordered all personnel, including 18 employees, who underwent swab tests last July 2 to undergo a 14-day self-quarantine. She also ordered that the offices at the 3 international terminals of the NAIA will be on lockdown beginning July 8 to July 22 for disinfection. Justice Undersecretary Mark Perete, meanwhile, said that while the offices at the NAIA are on lockdown, existing protocols to detect trafficking situations remain in place. Under these protocols, passengers suspected of being trafficked will still be referred to strict secondary inspection by the Bureau of Immigration. The offices, meanwhile, will continue to receive reports of trafficking situations through their hotlines and on social media to act on them accordingly. Agriculture Secretary William Dar underscored the need to introduce policy shifts in governing food systems to achieve the overarching goal of ensuring food security in the country amid the pandemic. Now, during the first Pre-State of the Nation address or Pre-SONA forum, Mr. Dar said the COVID-19 pandemic is an unprecedented crisis that has impacted food systems. Take a look.
An unprecedented crisis in modern times, the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting on food systems, disrupting agricultural value chains and movements, and posing risk to household food security. So with that, we are trying to look at policy shifts during this new normal. And we just adopted a new food security framework which have been approved by the IATF. And this framework would compel everyone, those stakeholders in the food systems, ensuring food security for the whole country, that there must be transformation everywhere in food systems, from production to consumption and all places in between, and which will compel us to do things differently. So what are the shifts we are wanting to pursue? A focus on production, but now equally a focus on consumption, empowering those marginalized in the system, and supporting diverse distribution efforts. So ang ibig sabihin dito, itong last 100 days, we have seen na ang pinaka-problema po dito ay it was more a problem of logistics and movement of food supplies. We have enough food supplies during the last 100 days and will continue to have enough food supplies in the next 6 months and beyond.
Secretary Dar also noted that the pandemic resulted in bottlenecks in movement and logistics that prevented the delivery of food supply from provinces to urban consumers. Secretary Dar also said they have introduced the Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita direct marketing program to benefit both consumers and producers. Now this setup brings farmers' produce from provinces directly to consumers in urban areas. Secretary Dar said the Kadiwa efforts have generated sales of around 5.5 billion pesos to participating farmers. Aside from Kadiwa, Secretary Dar said the department has also put in place an overall umbrella program to elevate and increase food sufficiency level during the new normal. The Plant program seeks to increase national agri-fishery output through intensified use of quality seeds, appropriate inputs, modern technologies to increase levels of productivity across all commodities and thus ensure food productivity, availability, accessibility, and affordability amidst the threat of the pandemic. More than 50 heads of state and government, as well as the heads of a number of UN international agencies, are taking part in a series of global discussions on COVID-19 and the world of work, taking place online from July 7 to the 9th. Let's listen in.
These messages will provide us with invaluable guidance and encouragement in our efforts to overcome the pandemic and to address effectively and urgently its impact on the world of work.
No country can solve this crisis alone. We are in this together. Strong, effective multilateral solutions matter more than ever. From the beginning, the United Nations has called for massive global support for the most vulnerable people and countries. A rescue package amounting to at least 10% of the global economy. Developed countries have stepped up support for their own countries, but we are promoting mechanisms of solidarity to ensure that the developing world will also fully benefit.
More than 136 million people are employed in the human health and social sector. All of them have the right to decent working conditions and protection of their health and safety. This is even more important in a public health crisis. Health systems, jobs, livelihoods, and the economy are intertwined.
We must choose what kind of recovery we want. I believe we should think about building a recovery where all can benefit from the transformation. For hundreds of millions of people, this would mean good jobs with a fair wage. Building a bridge to recovery will require global social and environmental solidarity. We can only succeed if we work together. Strong partnerships between government, international institutions, employers, and unions will be critical.
The economic policy choices governments make at home and in coordination with each other will help shape the long-term trajectory of our recovery. We can choose to build back economies that are more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable, or we can risk long years of stagnation and anger. To lay the foundation for a strong recovery, countries' monetary, fiscal, and trade policies must pull hard and pull in the same direction. And these must be accompanied by labor policies and social investments to ensure that no one is left behind by economic change.
The Global Summit on COVID-19 and the World of Work is the largest ever online gathering of workers, employers, and governments. Participants are discussing how to address the economic and social impact of the pandemic, which has laid bare the extreme vulnerability of millions of workers and enterprises. In other news, BRP Jose Rizal, the country's first missile frigate, and its crew would use the 2-week Rim of the Pacific or RIMPAC exercises as its shakedown cruise where its performance would be tested. Philippine Navy Public Affairs Office Chief Lieutenant Commander Maria Cristina Rojas said in a message late Wednesday when asked why the ship was selected to participate in the exercises, she said, "We can say it's part of the shakedown cruise where we can test the seaworthiness and performance of the FF-150 while the ship is still under warranty. A shakedown cruise allows the crew to familiarize themselves aboard a new vessel and to ensure all of the ship's systems are functional. The ship has a crew of 65 and is commanded by Captain Jerry Garrido. RIMPAC 2020 is slated for August 17 to the 31st off the waters of Hawaii. BRP Jose Rizal is scheduled to depart the Philippines by July 29 to 30 to participate in the biennial maneuvers described as the largest maritime warfare exercise in the world. Also, she said BRP Jose Rizal will be sailing alone for these exercises as the majority of the Philippine Navy ships are currently involved in supporting government efforts in containing the COVID-19 threat. Meanwhile, Rojas said the ship will not include its Augusta Westland or AW-159 Wildcat anti-submarine helicopter for RIMPAC 2020 as its crew is still undergoing training, which was disrupted by the Taal volcano eruption and ongoing pandemic. And its RIMPAC development, an AW-109 power utility helicopter will be aboard. The Navy's 2 AW-159 anti-submarine helicopters were delivered in May of last year and are worth 5.4 billion pesos, including its munition and mission essential equipment. The United States voiced concern after Vietnam handed down an 8-year prison sentence to a Facebook user who broadcasts pro-democracy views, calling on Hanoi to allow freedom of expression. Nguyen Quang Duc Vuong had spoken of his support for democracy in Vietnam and shared news of pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, according to Human Rights Watch. A State Department spokesperson said, quote, "His lengthy sentence is another in a number of troubling arrests and sentences of journalists, bloggers, and activists aimed at denying freedom of speech in Vietnam." The United States frequently assails the rights record of rival China, but has comparatively warm relations with Vietnam, which, despite war memories, has stepped up defense cooperation with Washington in the face of a rising Beijing. Vietnam has detained a number of high-profile journalists and activists in recent months ahead of the regime's 5-year party congress slated for next January. Now, he was arrested in September and sentenced Tuesday in a lightning-quick trial, accused of defaming Vietnam's leaders. ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
Silent volume 450. If I want to 100%. Standing by. Construction eh.
Thailand hopes to hold its MotoGP race in late November after an 8-month delay caused by the coronavirus pandemic, according to officials, as they announced a bid to host until 2025. The kingdom's third fixture on the premier motorbike racing calendar was slated for March 20 to 22, but the event was axed as the disease started spreading rapidly around the world. Officials have since gradually reopened the country's borders to business travelers and medical tourists with some restrictions. Organizers are now eyeing a rescheduled race for November 21 to 22, according to Deputy Government Spokeswoman Traisuri Traisara Nakul. Thailand will also submit a bid to continue hosting MotoGP for 5 more years, with the government paying for half of the 50 million euros or $56 million copyright. The sleepy northeastern city of Buriram hosted its first MotoGP race in 2018. Thailand has recorded around 3,100 COVID cases since the start of the year, a low toll given it was the first country outside of China to detect the disease. Now, this year's virus-delayed MotoGP season will finally begin on July 19 at the Jerez circuit in Spain. Beneath a quaint little cafe in downtown Ho Chi Minh City lies a secret bunker that was once the hiding place of nearly 2 tons of Viet Cong weapons used during the 1968 Tet Offensive, a turning point in the Vietnam War that was eventually won by the Communist North. Let's take a look.
Thì cấu trúc hầm nó cũng có hệ thống để thông ra ngoài hệ thống.
And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.